5, 6 years ago, maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of P2G Live. For those of you who have tuned in for the very first time, my name is Majid Waris and I'm your host. And tonight we have, I always say that hesitantly, tonight, because during the summer months we've obviously got the light coming through. It doesn't even feel like night. But tonight we have another special guest with us in the studio who we're going to have a proper chat with about his business venture, some great business lessons that we can derive from his experiences and the things that he's done in the business world. And also, we have a special announcement to make, some
We do indeed.
breaking news, right? So, without further ado, I'd like to invite and introduce to you Saj Hussain. Saj, welcome
Thank
to
you.
PTG Live.
Thank you, Majid. Thank you so much.
No, you're most welcome. Saj, now you've been no stranger to the Pathway Group, and you've been here a few times now. So a lot of us who are as part of the Pathway Group and members or people who attend the events may have seen you around before. But there may be people on here who might not have seen you before. So for the benefit of the audience, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Saj Hussain?
So I'm primarily I call myself an entrepreneur first.
Okay.
An entrepreneur is somebody who just comes up with lots of business ideas, and about 50 a day. And really, it's the skill is in focusing on the ones that you can work on. And most of my interests around property. So I run 3 property businesses. There's the essentially property development business. We buy property, we develop. There's a specialist letting agency where we specialize in managing only shared accommodation. And I run a training and mentoring business as well. I speak around the country and I help people progress in property in terms of other property business people.
Excellent. But it's not always been like that, has it?
No, hasn't. I've always been self-employed. I think I got the entrepreneurial streak when I was about 13, selling computer games in school, Commodore 64, ZX81 days, if
You know
anyone's
what?
old
I've
enough to
still got
remember.
my Commodore Amiga.
Oh,
I've still got
wow.
that boxed, and I've got some games
That
for
was an impressive computer at the time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it had 1 megabyte of memory in it.
Yes,
Full
yeah, if
meg.
you
Yeah.
think how much technology's moved.
Yeah.
And technology has been actually a massive friend to me as well, because I've done very well out of technology, not only using it in businesses, but it being a business for me as well. So early 90s, in fact 91 I think it was, whilst just finished university, I'd done 12 months of work experience. It taught me a very valuable lesson that I was probably going to be unemployable if this is what working for somebody is going to be like.
Wow. Okay.
That really wasn't going to be for
That
me.
was that like within the second year, third year of your
So
university?
essentially, I'd finished my 3rd year sandwich placement at university,
Okay.
which was a business and IT,
Yeah.
and I did the placement. The placement was actually at West Midlands Police in their newly formed IT
All right.
division, audit and
Nice.
IT at the time. Not as glam as it sounds. It put me off wanting to work for anybody. And I just really hated the idea of getting up and doing this every day. And I thought there has to be another way. And I thought, well, I'm sure I can make a way in life by working for myself. At the massive disappointment of my parents after I'd graduated, I said, I'm not going to get a job. I think they felt that it will wear off. He'll do it for a year,
Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah.
He'll give it a go, then he'll
Yeah.
get a proper job.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, I think my wife probably thought the same thing as well. So he'll give up and get
So
a
you
proper
were married that early then?
job. I
Yeah.
got married. I've been. This is.
Things I pick up on
This is
people.
embarrassing now. So 28 years I'll be married next month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah. So you have to congratulate my wife for sticking with me this longer.
Brilliant.
So I kind of got into IT at that stage by selling IT equipment.
Okay.
And I think it was just, some of it was right timing because that was the thing at the time. It was still quite new. There's a lot of businesses looking for some help in computers, setting them up and supplying them and the equipment.
Yeah.
And I was interested in IT for a long time anyway, from when I was a kid. And it just seemed like a natural fit.
Yeah.
And I very quickly realized I knew about this much about IT and about this much about business.
Right.
So there's a mass eye-opening for me. But we kind of persevered with it, and it went through massive ups and downs. And there was a lot of learning. I knew very little about business, if I'm being honest, about the time, other than buy it from here, sell it from there, add a profit margin on.
Right.
And I had an early business partner that we fell out very quickly. We parted ways. We didn't kind of see eye to eye. And I kind of moved more into service side of IT in terms of networking, maintenance support contracts,
Okay.
and that was quite good. And that turned into a nice business.
Great.
So I ran it for about 15 years. It was about 20 odd staff. It was a multi-million-pound business. It was literally within a mile from where we are right now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it was doing quite well. If I reflect on it now, I think in my 30s, early 30s, I felt like I was a millionaire. I was invincible. I was successful. I've achieved everything. Anything I touched turned into gold.
Yeah.
That wasn't the reality. That was how I felt.
How you felt? Okay.
But I got a quick awakening when, after a series of bad decisions, really, which were entirely my own making, I ended up putting the business in really bad shape.
Right.
And ultimately, I had to close the business down. And that was really painful. And not only I felt like a failure myself, but the people that were working for me, they were dependent on picking up a salary at the end of the month. And that was probably one of the lowest points in my life. I just felt like not only I was a failure, I'd let everybody else down, and that was really hard. But I'll tell you one thing, Majid, the learnings that come from failure are much greater than those that come from success.
Absolutely.
There's so much that I learned, and I probably wouldn't go as far as I wouldn't change it for the world. If I could turn back the clock, I would like to have not been in that situation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But the learnings were just, I just learned so much during that tough time.
Yeah.
And I think I just, for a while, I was in a dark space, and I just, I was blaming everybody else. It was the economy's bad. It was the suppliers are no good. The equipment was this. My staff were this. It was really everybody else's fault except mine.
For your own. Yeah.
The reality is, when we look in the mirror, and we are where we are in life because of decisions we choose to make on a moment-to-moment basis.
Absolutely.
We are where we are here today because everything that's happened before and the decisions we've made.
Exactly.
And it came as really almost as an enlightenment when I was speaking to somebody, and he was saying, we were talking, and another friend of mine who was a successful business person, about the situation and the problems I was having, and how I ended up in this position and what I needed to get out of it. And he said, you're the only one that can change that situation. I said, what do you mean? It was this and that. And he goes, no. He goes, you need to choose to change.
Wow. Okay.
And, I didn't quite grasp it at the time, but then it took a little bit of time, and I understood what he meant. Actually, if I accept this and I blame everybody else, then, this is going to be my life.
Right. Exactly.
But if I want to make a difference, my daughter was in a very nice private school, and I had to pull her out, and I just couldn't afford those things, and struggling to keep a roof over my head, and everything was just really not in a great way. Wow. And when your little daughter looks at you in your face and says, "Daddy, why can't I go to school with my friends?" That really, really cuts you up, and I think I have to change this. I want a better life, not just for me, for my family, and I want them to be comfortable, and I don't ever want to be in this position again. And I looked and kind of within myself and other people I knew, and probably the most successful and wealthiest people I knew were making money from property. They either made money from property or they kept money in property.
Okay.
So they made money from other businesses, and then they bought property.
Okay.
And I was a big fan of the Sunday Times Rich Lists. Okay. And I think my older copies of I looked at recently. I think some mice have nibbled through them.
Wow.
But I've got some very old copies. And when you look through those lists, not just the current ones, but years ago, decades back, there's a good percentage of those that keep money in property, or they invest in property and create the wealth through property. And this really got me interested in property. And it's in our genes a little bit that, from Asian background. And my father used to say to me for long, you buy property, even though you're in the business, you buy property. Yeah. I never did, really. I never got into it because I thought, no, I need the cash for my cash flow in the business and stuff. And that's what got me curious about property. And this was at a time where, Sarah Beanie is probably the hottest thing on TV, and programs every night were about property and people making money out of property, and regardless of what you bought, went up in value. And I remember I was a big fan of Sarah Beanie shows. And
what year was that?
I'm trying to remember. It's probably 2006.
Before my time.
That's
why I don't recall. Okay.
Yes. It's about 2006. And I remember she used to have this saying where she'd tell them when they were doing a renovation, no, you're doing this wrong, you can't do it like this isn't going to work, you're making a big mistake. And then she'd come back a few months later and they'd show these fantastic pictures and they'd have a big grin on their face and they've made money
Yeah.
and proving her wrong that we
Yeah.
made it
Yeah.
work. And she'd say, and she had this saying that the market saved you.
Ah, okay.
And so what she was trying to say is, regardless of what you had done, the
Yeah.
market has risen so much that you would have made profit anyway.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
but so I started learning a little bit about property from other people. I held all the books, which probably were interesting, but I didn't learn a lot from them.
Okay.
And I started attending seminars and learning from other people and reading
Yeah.
books and online and things. And I got involved in property, and I also discovered actually there's many ways that you could make money from property without actually using any of your own money.
Now this
And
is
that
a
was
very
always the biggest barrier.
this is a very interesting point, because I think a lot of people, especially given the current climate and especially within the last decade or so, where it's become tougher and tougher, more challenging for
Yeah.
especially new-time buyers to go out and buy property, getting the mortgage and all that kind of stuff. And there, at the same time, you also have people who maybe associate or belong to certain factions of theological groups where getting a loan on interest isn't even permissible in their
Yes.
life, and there
Yes.
are lots of different challenges people face in getting property. So what would you advise them? I mean, this is obviously a good point to start for giving value to the
Yes.
audience, and a lot of people will probably think about these specific questions.
Yes.
New time buyer, how do I get onto property ladder? People who don't want to take an interest-based loan, how can they indulge in property-based business without
Yes.
maybe even buying?
Yeah.
Because we're here now talking, I guess, in relation to collaborations and joint ventures, I suppose, and to an extent.
Absolutely. So I think the thing first, just a little bit of a clarification.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about investment property and somebody buying a property as a home, is two different things.
Okay.
So the rules and parameters around what we're doing around investment property is investing principles. And when someone's buying a home, there's more emotion involved. It's a different thing. You're
Yeah.
not buying really for profit.
Yeah.
You're buying a roof over your head.
Sure.
So just focusing on the investment side of
Yeah.
property. So we can see that as a potential problem, that if you don't have the funds, how do you get started? How do you buy property? And that was always the kind of barrier that I had in my mind. You need a lot of money to get started. But actually, if you think about it the other way around, as an entrepreneurial brain would, and many people I'm sure listening would see this as well, there'd be other people who, for example, might not have the time but may have the cash. But for them, the challenge is they aren't able to find the properties.
Okay. Yeah.
Unable to do the renovation, unable to manage them,
Yeah.
because they have a different challenge.
Yeah.
My challenge at the time, or many other people's right now, might be, well, actually, I don't have the money. But that's only part of it.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
And this is where the collaboration aspect comes in. If you start thinking, well, actually, if I can help that person resolve their problem,
Yeah.
that would help me achieve what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that's how I really just stumbled into joint ventures. I'd had a property deal that I was trying to sell, and the investor wasn't really quite sure. And rather than me thinking we were just going to lose this deal, what we did, we structured a deal where they purchased the property. I didn't earn a fee out of it, so there was nothing in it for me up front. But actually, I was going to put the work in to get the property up and running, and I was going to get it tenanted and look after it, and I would earn a share of the profit.
Sure. Yeah.
And that was a big realization, that actually I did all that, and now I part own a property,
Yeah.
but actually I haven't put any money into it.
Yeah.
And then that property is going to pay me pretty much forever.
Yeah.
And then you start understanding the principles that you don't work for money, you get money to work for you.
Yeah.
See, and a great book there is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And I think it's an eye opener for many people that are in the rat race environment, or kind of working hard to earn a living.
Yeah.
That you see that the whole thing turns on its head. You think, well, actually, we shouldn't be working for money. We should be getting money to work for us. The reality is there's trillions of pounds every day that move around the economy.
Sure.
It's just not in your pocket.
Not in our pocket.
Right?
Yeah.
So you think about, how can I access some of that to service somebody else's needs that will help me at the same time? So it's thinking in a way, not just, oh, I have a problem, I don't have any money, why is somebody going to invest with me? Will somebody invest with me? It's a case of, how can I help somebody else?
Beautiful.
If I can serve that person,
yeah,
I'll achieve something from that for myself as well.
Absolutely. That's a very poignant point as well, because generally in life we see different businesses or business owners. I mean, I've come across a lot of people who, even in the networking fields, we've both been in the networking fields in the same network as well, where people are always there for the taking,
Mm.
but they never look at the opportunities where they can actually assist or help somebody else.
Yes,
There's no, no like and trust factors being
absolutely.
built up, because without that, you're not going to really feel comfortable with about
Yes.
working with somebody. And it's coming back to the point about getting the money to work for you. I heard somebody today actually say something to do with time. Are you selling your time for
Mm.
money?
Yes,
That's
yes,
not
you're
the right way.
exchanging. Yeah.
Yeah,
Funny enough, I had the same conversation with somebody this morning about that,
yeah, same,
and
yeah,
we was talking about scaling the business,
yeah,
and he's a service-based business, and I said, right now, what you are doing is, let's use an analogy of, say, a driving school. He
mm,
wasn't a driving school, but let's say
mm,
that was. I said, for every hour you're in the car teaching somebody, you're
yeah,
getting paid.
yeah,
But if you choose not to go to work that day,
yeah.
you're not
You're
going
not
to
going
earn
to
any
get paid.
money.
Yes,
So there's no leverage.
yes,
So how do you leverage that? Well, actually, he could get another car and he could pay somebody else to do the driving lessons, and he might earn a smaller fee, but now it's leverage because he's got his
yes,
time back.
yes,
And how can you scale that? Well, maybe he could do an online course around how to pass a theory test, for example.
yeah,
So now you're trying to scale up in terms of your income
yeah,
without parting with time.
yes,
And I think that is a big thing where we have these 24 hours in the day. We exchange them. You
mm,
know, typically 8 hours we spend asleep.
mm,
You know, including traveling to work and back, that'll be 10 hours.
mm,
We've got to have a little bit of rest and spend time with the family.
yeah.
And most of us are too exhausted to want to do anything else.
Yeah, yeah, we are, and I think one of the things that often prevents us from being able to leverage our income based on maybe our knowledge, experience, or whatever it might be, is how much value we have to offer.
Mm.
I think the more value you have to
Yeah.
offer, the more you're able to leverage that income based on what you're parting with. And I used this analogy in a keynote speech I delivered a couple of months ago, where you've got one person in a company working 8 hours a day and he's earning X amount, let's just say 25 grand a year, and they want more hours in the day to earn more if they're getting it paid
Yes.
hourly rate. Then you've got another person within the same company for the same amount of time and getting paid twice as much. It's the value difference rather
Yes.
than time difference.
Absolutely. And so for example, if you look at say the CEO and the worker in that company,
Yeah,
the CEO might be earning 4, 8, 10 times what the worker
yeah,
at this level may be
yeah,
earning. But they're both working for the same company. They're both
yeah,
producing some kind of output. But the value or the perception is that the value one brings is much
yes,
higher than the other. And
absolutely.
it's us accepting that perception.
Yeah,
And so when we talk about what value we bring to other people,
yeah,
I think quite often the biggest challenge is, first of all, when we look within ourselves, whether we value what we have of value.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
And so,
Good point.
well, going back to the driving instructor analogy, well, I know how to drive a car, and I could teach somebody else, but
Mm,
so could somebody else.
yeah,
It's a common skill, and what would make me any different?
yeah,
Well, if you feel that way, you'll never get moving. You'll never do
exactly,
anything. Whereas
exactly.
actually, if you make the decision, well, actually, if I did start doing that, that would mean I could earn a certain amount of money. I'll have these
Yeah,
costs and it'll free up some time.
yeah,
And you start moving into that. But you have to accept that, we all bring value in different ways.
absolutely.
Your skills will be very different to mine, to some of the other people. Here, some people that are watching. We all have different skills,
Mm,
but we have to recognize that they have value and learn how to articulate that value to somebody else to
brilliant.
get rewarded for it.
Absolutely. And we were just talking about the collaborative side of maybe gaining leverage in our income by collaborating with the people within the industry. And I suppose it's not just something that applies in the property world, with general business sense, isn't it?
Yes,
In
absolutely.
in general business sense, you get to understand that there's so far you can go on your own completely
Yes.
without getting maybe, whether it be mentorship, whether it be support, whether it be collaboration, whether it be joint ventures, whether it be education from other people. We always rely on outside sources of information, help,
Yes.
assistance of some kind or another. So when you transitioned your career from the IT world into the property world, what are the lessons you drew from your IT experience or the businesses that you run in IT, and what did you take into the property industry, and from there, what did you decide to, okay, these are the things that I need to focus on based on my experiences here?
I think one big thing that I took with me from my earlier business to this business, I've been involved in various other businesses as well, primarily these two, is understanding how much importance you have to put on communication, and that could be communication with suppliers, with customers, um, and the value and how much you put into those relationships. I think that was key, absolutely key for me. So when I came into property, and the market's constantly changing, so at that time we were focusing on find what we call distressed sales, discounted property, and the market evolves. It's not that market right now, and a lot of that was sitting in front of people, understanding what's going on for them, what's the issues and challenges, how can we resolve this, and part of that process might be that the house is sold, it achieves a certain amount of money, it helps resolve other things,
Yeah.
they might be able to move on, and whatever it might be. But it was all about understanding people and helping people.
Great.
And I think taking that from my IT business and applying it in the property business helped me very quickly to move forward by building those relationships. So when I was acquiring a property, I was speaking to sellers, speaking to agents, but then those relationship skills are also used when we're talking to potential investors
Yeah.
and business partners
Yeah.
who are going to fund those deals and fund those projects.
Absolutely.
And then you've got the other element of tenants as well when they come in,
Yes.
and that's
Yeah.
probably not my mom's favorite part of this business, but it's all relationship based. And I
Absolutely.
think mastering the skill of communication for me, I think it's the single most important business skill, because it also closely under that fits in sales and marketing.
Excellent. Yeah.
If you can generate interest and
Yeah.
you can sell, it doesn't matter what you're doing,
Yeah.
you'll do okay.
You'll do all right
Yeah.
because you're generating that interest, as you
Yes.
mentioned, and you're selling the ideas, and you're generating income as a result of it. Excellent. Now, as part of then now moving into this property world, as part of the services that you offer and the businesses that you run, you've also been running a lot of events.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about what the purpose of such events are and how they're of any kind of benefit.
Well, I think that kind of moves on nicely for what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Ultimately, for me, it was building relationships.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
how can I build relationships? So when I got into property, I started learning little snippets of information.
Yeah.
And I was used to a background in IT where we actually never shared any information with anybody. We
Okay.
held our cards close to our chest,
Yeah.
because if I understand how to set up a no-val server, I'm certainly not going to tell anybody else, because I'm going to get paid a lot of money to do it. Right?
Yeah.
And that's how it was. You wouldn't
Yeah.
share that information
Yeah.
with people. And these days, you just jump onto YouTube and some 12-year-old kid will show you how to do it.
Yeah.
But at that time, the commodity was
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yes.
But actually, in the property industry, people were much more open,
Yeah.
and there's a much more of an abundant mindset. And I remember somebody I met fairly early in my property journey in Birmingham, a very successful property guy, and he was giving me lots of advice and tips. And I was listening, and we were talking probably for about good 30 or 40 minutes, and then I just abruptly said to him, why are you telling me this? Don't you think potentially I'll be your competitor at some point in the future? And he just laughed and he said, look, there's plenty out there for everybody. And I never used to think in that way. That
Yeah.
actually, the abundant mindset, actually,
Yeah.
there's plenty there for everybody.
Yeah.
When you have this mindset of lack,
Yeah.
then you'll struggle to progress. And that was another big shift that I had, that you just help people generally be open, because I was thinking this guy must have an alternative gender, why is he helping me, why is he being open like this? But then it really helped me understand that actually, what, building relationships with people is so important. So what I started to do was try to organize a little meetup. I used to call it the Birmingham Property Investors Curry Night.
Okay.
We'd meet up for a little bite to eat, and I'd try
Yeah.
and invite a few people.
Yeah.
I could learn from them. I could connect with other people.
Yeah.
We could talk about property.
Yeah.
And that's really how it developed. And that was probably 11 something years ago, maybe.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And it started to evolve from that. And then
Mm.
I got involved with a very large property training company, and I started running events. And for them, I really enjoy kind of speaking to people, helping them. And then
Yeah.
I ended up being at the front of the room as kind of the trainer, speaker.
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing that. And
Yeah.
I love helping other people. And
Excellent.
the events was a great way of not only sharing knowledge, but building contacts and connections.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
And
see
so
that.
it was really kind of a progression of that relationship building. And you touched on something that I think is really important in not only in our business, but all businesses. People buy from people,
Sure.
and people buy from people like themselves.
Yeah.
So you have to give people an opportunity to get to know, like, and trust you.
Yeah.
That's what business is
Yeah.
done. And this is not a tick box exercise that people do. This is subconsciously. People have to feel
Yeah.
comfortable, and they want
Yeah.
to buy from
And it's
you.
not a short-term thing, it's a long-term thing. Sometimes, you
Absolutely.
have to meet someone a number of times before that relationship is built. It's like when people come to networking events that you and I have even hosted, and people say, "Oh, sometimes we get the same people there," and I think to myself, "Isn't that a good thing? Isn't
Yes.
that a wonderful thing?
Yes.
You actually get time to spend, with that person and build that relation, get to know them a little bit better. Because if you're seeing new people every time in the room and every single event, then how much time are you going to get to build that relationship? Because some people come with the mindset of only selling in the room,
Yes.
and that's another hurdle that we have to cross. You got the salespeople in the room
Yes.
just want to sell our business, and they're not interested in offering anything back. People want to join WhatsApp groups and all sorts of networking groups, and they just want to bombard their adverts out and not
Yes.
actually offer any help or assist people. And that's the difference, isn't it, with what you're
Yes.
doing in the front of the room as the trainer. You're already in the industry. You're sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your experience, and all that gives you the credibility of being somebody who's able to be approachable, knowledgeable, and somebody who is ultimately then trustworthy. Because if you can't build that trust, if they don't know you and they don't then like you, then that relationship isn't going to be built. Well, here's the wonderful thing about what you've explained, and what I've gathered from these industry specific meetups is that it's very industry specific.
Yes.
The collaborations, the joint ventures, you're not going to get anybody in the room who's like selling something which is completely
Mm.
irrelevant or offering something completely irrelevant to that specific industry. So I guess that's a
Yeah,
great
the
benefit, isn't it?
connections are much like to be stronger. And but it's important to learn networking. And networking is a learned skill,
Yeah,
and a skill you
absolutely.
can really learn in one afternoon.
Yeah,
Most people don't do it. And as you
yeah,
said, you see all the time people come in and say, right, I'm selling this, I'm selling this.
yeah,
Here's my business card. This is what I do.
yeah.
They don't even ask your name. They don't even
Mm,
look at you.
mm,
This is what I do. Yeah, if you ever need this, come and give me a call. I'm
yeah,
selling mortgages, whatever it might be.
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember a long-term friend of mine actually came to one of my property events,
yeah.
and he came the once, and at the end of the evening, I said, how do you get on? He said, yeah, he was all right. But I didn't pick up any business. I don't think I'll come back. And I was just flabbergasted. I say, look, you've missed the point.
Yeah,
Why is somebody going to use your service? You have to be here. You have to get to know people.
yeah,
You have to serve.
yeah,
You have to help others.
yeah.
And then people start saying, you know what? You need to go and talk to that guy. He knows
Exactly,
what he's doing. He will help you. And what
exactly,
happens is the people become your sales force
absolutely.
because you are genuine, you are sincere, you're trying to help.
Yeah,
You don't have to try and sell. Other
exactly.
people will sell for you if you make the effort to understand. And very few people understand that. And always baffles me that
It
it's
does,
such a simple thing. If
100%.
if you think about
Yeah,
it, when you get email spam, which we all do,
yeah.
do you rush and click buy now? Who buys from spammers? Hardly anybody,
Nobody.
right? And it's no different. If someone's there just throwing their cards like confetti, what they're doing is spamming you, right?
Exactly,
And you're not gonna,
exactly.
and it puts you off completely, that
Yeah, it's
person.
like the people who are half-heartedly interested in what you do. They come and tell you,
Yes.
or they ask you in a way where they're just waiting for you to ask them back, what
Mm.
do you do? So they can tell you everything
Yes.
about what they do. So
They've got their
otherwise,
pitch
like,
ready.
what do you do? It's
Yes.
not one of those, it's with the pitch ready. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. This is 100%. Now, on that note, we're talking about events and talking about meetups, and we have something special in the bag now, haven't
We
we?
do indeed.
Because
Yes.
we promised you guys we're going to have an announcement to make here, but just before we break that announcement, just to recap for those of you who may have just joined us, my name is Majid Waris. You are watching P2G Live, and with our special guest Saj Hussain, the joint venture and property expert. If you have any questions regarding anything you've heard or any questions relating to properties in general, put it into the comment section and we'll get Saj to answer them. We have our lovely assistant Brad working behind the fancy equipment, the quantum computing equipment that we were referring to earlier, so that if you have any questions, we can get those questions answered for you live. Now, Saj, we have you've gone through a lot of experience with having your own groups. You've built groups. You have a big following. You have hundreds of people in the room at each event. And that for industry-specific events held so regularly uh, with paid membership is like it's like wow, isn't it? There's a wow factor there in its own right. But you have some special news to announce tonight, right?
I do indeed. So, I have a massive love for networking events. And I think they're very powerful, and particularly as you mentioned, when they're industry specific, even more powerful.
Yeah.
So, in collaboration with P2G, we'll be launching the Meetup for Property People.
Excellent.
which will be launching in August, which essentially is an industry-specific networking event.
We should have one of those whistles and the clapping.
Yes.
Yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome board, Saj.
Fanfare,
Yes.
yes. So the first meeting will be launched
Excellent.
in August.
Yep.
It'll be late August because people will be away for holidays and stuff as
Absolutely. Yeah,
well.
of course. Yeah.
And so it'll be late August, and then there'll be a regular monthly meet every month. And the
Brilliant.
format essentially will be I'll find the best property content from around the country
Yeah.
and get those experts to come and share their knowledge, share their experience. And there'll also be an opportunity to network with other people. Ideally, not pitching to other people.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
build your connections
Not
and
spammers.
network.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And spammers are welcome, but I suspect
Yeah.
you're probably not going to get any business.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
And so, an opportunity to build those relationships, because I've seen the power of actually taking time and get to know people and what can come from that.
Mm.
I'm a big fan of that, and which is why we're doing this and we're launching this in August.
What made you collaborate, or this joint venture or collaboration? What made you feel that Pathway to Grow was going to be the right
Yeah,
platform for this?
great question. So one of the things I was thinking of doing is I'll launch this on my own. I'll get started with it.
Yeah.
But then, when I was speaking to P2G and the team as well, and the Pathway events is something I've been attending
Yeah, you
for a
have,
number
yeah.
of years,
Yeah.
and I see massive value in that because it's essentially the same concept in different industries.
Yeah.
And you're growing your network, you're growing
Yeah.
your connections, and it's a great saying as well. Your net worth is equivalent to your network.
Yeah.
So if you've got a good sized network, that's going to help you grow in your business as well. So, I've seen P2G do amazing things over the last few years with the various events they run. And when there's talk about doing something around property, I thought this, could be a great fit for us to work together on this and really
Yeah.
build something that will serve people.
Excellent. Well, welcome aboard, Saj.
Thank you so
We're
much.
honored to have
Thank
you.
you.
We feel it's going to be a great collaboration. We've got a lot to learn from you, and a lot to learn
Vice
from each
versa.
other. Thank you very much. And we've always had this great relationship throughout the PTG platform. So we're very much excited about it,
Thank
and I'm
you.
sure it's going to be a blast. Now, you mentioned that this is going to start sometime at the end of August.
Yes.
If people wanted to find out or get more information or keep up to date with this, what are your social media tags or handles where they
Yeah,
can contact
so
you?
you can just find me very easily. Saj Hussain.
Yeah.
Just Google me, Facebook me. You'll kind of find me.
Brilliant.
YouTube videos as well. And this specific event, because we haven't got the venue finalized just yet,
Okay.
we haven't released the official launch date.
Sure.
But if it's something you're interested in, want to get some more information on, if you go to my website, sajhussain.com/networking, and if you put the details in there, and then you'll get on the early notification list. And as soon as that's released, the date, I'll send out the information and also some bonuses as well for registering nice and early.
Brilliant. Nice. Now, is there going to be, do we envisage having any kind of a membership structure with this?
Yeah, so essentially it'll be a paid event.
Yeah.
And I think my belief is that's important because not only the venues that have costs and things, so we really just want it to cover the cost for the venue. So the ticket price will only be £10 to attend, and if it's your first time, it'll be £1.
Oh wow!
So
Okay.
and if you turn up on the door trying to get in, it'll be 20 quid. So we just want you to register early, so
Yeah.
help us organise and manage the process,
Brilliant.
number of chairs, teas, coffees,
Yeah.
etc. And there's no commitment. You just come to an event, you try
Yeah.
it, and if
Yeah.
if you decide it's for you, then fantastic. It's that thing about if I do a great job and I help and I serve people, people
Yeah.
want to come back. And if I do a
Absolutely.
crap job, people won't.
Exactly.
So I don't need to force
Exactly.
anybody to any long-term commitment.
Brilliant.
But there'll
Yeah.
be massive amounts of value, and some
Yeah.
of my friends and experts in the industry,
Yeah.
literally, you'll pay thousands of pounds for some time with them,
Yeah.
and they'll be coming along sharing their knowledge and
Excellent.
expertise.
Excellent. And aside from that, I suppose the people who are delegates in the room, they're not just going to be people who are property investors or people who are involved in renting properties. But I guess you'll have other people who are related within the property
Yes.
industry. Can you give us an idea of what kind of people you get in these events generally?
Yeah,
that
so some of the events I've run previously have been specifically for property investors,
Okay.
and those are people that are already investing in property or those that are aspiring to invest in property.
Okay.
But actually, one of the things that maybe we've not done so well in the past is focus on the people that service the property sector. So with this meetup, what our intention is to do is not focus just on property investors, but also those are the people that work within the property sector. So, for example, with solicitors, architects, planning consultants,
Yeah.
people of that nature that
Yeah.
all work and service the property sector,
Right. Okay.
tradespeople, contractors, project managers, because it will be a great place to not only grow knowledge,
Yeah.
but also to network and meet other like-minded people as well, potentially pick
You
up
get to
business as well.
build your own understanding of the industry as well. For those
Absolutely.
people, I suppose, for example, if you're a conveyancing solicitor and you're quite new, you'd want to also understand the market better
Yeah.
so you can serve the market better. And these
Yes.
would be great events to attend so you can understand what other property investors or people who are managing properties, what challenges they're going through, so
Mm.
you can you got a better of idea how to serve them better.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think a great thing to just to add on to that point you've just made is the property industry evolves very, very quickly.
Yeah.
You hear me say regularly that the only certainty in property is constant change.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
evolving. And I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier that what I was doing, maybe 10, 11 years ago in property
Yeah.
is very different from what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing now is very different from what I was doing, say, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm sure in 5 years' time, it'll probably be different from what I'm doing now. I'm not talking about massively different,
Yeah.
but it shifts and evolves.
Yeah.
And if you don't keep up, it's
Yeah.
very easy to fall over. And when we talk about property, we're not talking about £500, £5,000.
Yeah.
We're generally talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds investment. So it's really important that you're doing things in the right way. You have the right knowledge. And I'm sure you've heard the term a little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
That definitely applies in property. And so what we find is people that are on the ground that are doing cutting edge things
Yeah.
are evolving or pushing the boundaries forward in property. So for the example you mentioned about, say, a conveyancing solicitor being in an environment like that will straight away get switched on and hear things that people are doing right now that maybe hasn't reached people
in their
the
industry.
masses.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it generally tends to be cutting edge things and
Yeah.
things that are kind of
Yeah.
fairly different
Then
that
it
are happening.
yeah, and it gives them the edge in their industry as
Yes.
well. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Now we have run just close to time. So do we have any questions? I believe we have some
We have a
questions.
singular question, but it could be quite a lengthy one.
Okay. Right.
This could be a P2G live in itself, I could imagine.
So the question is, how do you build a property portfolio from nothing?
Well, okay, yeah. That could be a three-day
We'll come
seminar.
back after the break.
Station part.
Essentially, I think that the basic principles are coming back to what we kind of touched on earlier on.
Okay.
You see, in any business, for it to succeed, there needs to be something you're going to provide that somebody else wants, and there needs to be some profit and there's some gain in that for people as well. So when you're talking about property, and I gave the example earlier, many of my investors are professional solicitors, doctors, accountants, dentists, people like this, who are high net worth, they earn very good incomes. They might enjoy what they're doing, some of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
But they want to build an alternative income. They want to.
Yeah.
The reality is, look, the government's not going to look after us in our old age.
Yeah.
Unless you're happy living on Ryvita.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, people are realizing we're going to have to do something to look
Yeah.
after ourselves when we get to that when we get to that point. And so there's many people that want to get into property. So if you can be the conduit that helps other people, it's really important you understand what you're doing first of all yourself and you're able to deliver.
Of course.
And then that's a great way to get started. That's pretty much how I built my business. I thought about how can I help somebody else and get rewarded for that. And
Yeah.
initially it was just selling deals. It was just a cash flow business. It was, I was putting the hours in, getting
Yeah.
the deals, selling them on,
Yeah.
earning a fee and going back.
Yeah.
And then started building it as equity rather than just fees. And so really it's thinking about how can you help somebody else get what they want and in the process help build the business. So right now, for example, I could find a property that's up for sale, say, at £150,000, and if I spend 50-odd thousand pounds, I can turn that into a multiple letting unit that's going to be generating, say, £2,000 or £3,000 a month. That's great if I understand how to do that. But if I don't have the money to do it, if I'm not able to borrow the funds, or if I'm not mortgageable and I don't want to take a mortgage, then actually all these barriers mean I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But there'll be other people that will have the funds.
Yeah.
And actually, if you put the shoe on the other foot, they've also got a problem.
Yeah.
Their money's dwindling. It's earning very little interest for those that are happy to earn interest. And inflation is as such, the reality is the money is shrinking in value. So one of the safest places to put it is an asset like property. Although it goes ups and downs, long term it's always been a
There's an
solid,
upwards
solid.
trend.
Yeah, it's always. And your money's never all going to be exposed. It's never going to be at risk. And if it's somewhere which is a safe asset, which is growing steadily, we're not talking about massive growth. Even if it's growing very steadily, let's say you take a very, very safe investment, very little risk associated with it, somewhere where there's nothing out of the ordinary on that property. Now you've got an asset that actually not only is going up in value, but is earning you income today.
Yeah.
If you can structure that for somebody else, and your reward is not a fee, but your reward is part of the equity, that's how you start to build something out of nothing.
Yeah.
You see, and when you start leveraging that, so for example, I have a build team here, I have architects here, I have project managers here, and then the same thing over here.
Yeah.
I'm not the one that's actually going out doing the work.
Yeah.
I'm not the one painting the walls. I'm not the one building walls. I'm not the one finding the tents, putting them in. I'm leveraging all that out. And if you think about it, you can actually scale it quite quickly. Now, ultimately, I'm responsible for everything.
Sure.
So I'm not delegating everything to the extent that I'm sitting with my feet up. If things go wrong, it's all going to be down on my shoulders. So you have to understand what you're doing. You have to understand the opportunity. And then you create something that many people can benefit from. And you lead that and you deliver that and you make sure you deliver that successfully, and people reward you handsomely for it by the way of equity in the project rather than a fee.
Excellent. You know, one of the things which is really oozing out of you, from which what I've noticed, from the days of when you lost your business or the business didn't go the way you hoped for it to in the IT industry, is you've always mentioned something to do with how it made you feel, how other people felt. You know, the effects of your actions against how it made other people feel. The fact that you, even tonight, you became slightly emotional when you were recalling your events as to other people who were working for you as employees and they had to lose their job, and you felt responsible for that. And I think, if anything, and I know you mentioned communication as one of the single biggest elements of becoming greater at anything that in terms of business and commerce, but I think coupled with that is relationships, how you feel about treating other people and how they feel about you and how they've treated you and vice versa, and generally how, you know, the know, like, and trust factor that we talked about earlier. I think if we take those two things away from tonight, that would, and we can start applying, or at least reevaluate our approach in the way we do business, that's some investment that could multiply, you know, over and over again, isn't it?
And the great thing with that is it doesn't just apply to property business.
Exactly.
It could be any business,
Exactly.
or it could be just your relationships and your personal life as well.
Absolutely. Communication and how you make people feel.
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow.
And a great book there is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant book.
Excellent. Fantastic. You know, I think we've just come to the end of our time for P2G Live tonight, and I'd love to continue this discussion because it's really going in that kind of direction that in the discussions that I usually enjoy having anyway. And I'm sure the audience at home or in their office or wherever they are really enjoyed listening to Saj today. Again, if you have any more questions, if you've watched this afterwards, after it's been uploaded, then do put them into the comment section. Saj is now a part of the P2G team. We'll always get the questions out to him, and I'm sure he can get back in touch with you. What we'll also do is ask Brad to put the links which Saj mentioned earlier. So if you want to register your interest, we can do that as well at the same time. But for now, Saj, once again, welcome aboard. It's a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you so much.
And we're looking forward to having another amazing kind of exciting time together within the P2G family. So from us, it's good night for now. And next month, we have another special guest by the name of Robert Heed. We'll tell you more about him as time comes closer. But this is another guy who you would want to just sit there and listen to because he says so many pearls of wisdom. So from us tonight, it's a good night. Have a good evening. Any questions you have after this, put them into the comment section, and we'll see you at the next one. Have a good night.
Thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you soon.